July 13th, 1943. If General George Smith Patton hadn't defied orders that day, the United States Army would have been humiliated in Sicily. Not just defeated, not just slowed down, humiliated. Reduced to guarding British flanks while watching from the sidelines as Montgomery claimed all the glory. The man they called Old Blood and Guts, a name earned through years of leading from the front, charging into battle while other generals commanded from behind the lines, was reading a message that made his blood boil. British Field Marshal Bernard Montgomery wanted Patton's road. Not just any road. Highway 124, the main artery north through Sicily, the lifeline of the American advance. And Montgomery expected the United States forces to simply hand it over. What General George Smith Patton said next would trigger the greatest race of World War II, a race that would prove American fighting spirit, a race that would humiliate Britain's most arrogant. Commander, a race that would cement Old Blood and Guts as the greatest combat general in United States history. This is what happened next. The command tent sits sweltering under the Sicilian sun. General George Smith Patton, commanding the United States 7th Army, reads the message for the third time. His jaw tightens. His famous pearl-handled pistols rest on his hips as he stands, motionless, absorbing words that feel like a slap across the face. The message comes through official Allied channels. British Field Marshal Montgomery requests, no, demands, that American forces relinquish Highway 124. The 8th Army needs this road for its advance toward Messina, the key city on Sicily's northeastern tip. United States forces should yield the road, take alternate routes through the mountains, support the British advance. Support. That single word burns in Patton's mind. This road isn't just pavement and dirt. Highway 124 represents the backbone of the American advance. Patton's 7th Army landed on Sicily's southern beaches just 3 days earlier, on July 10, 1943. Operation Husky, the largest amphibious assault attempted to that point in the war. 160,000 Allied troops storming the beaches. United States forces on the western beaches. British forces on the eastern beaches. The plan seemed clear. Montgomery would drive up the east coast toward Messina. Patton would protect Montgomery's left flank and secure western Sicily. A supporting role, a subordinate position. Old Blood and Guts had accepted this plan because those were his orders. But he'd never liked it. Now, Montgomery wants more. He wants the American road. His advance up the east coast has stalled around Catania. German forces concentrated their defenses on the coastal route because they knew this was the most direct approach to Messina. Montgomery can't break through, so he wants to swing inland through central Sicily. Using Highway 124, Patton's highway. Without this road, United States tanks and trucks will be stuck on narrow mountain paths that wind through terrain designed by God to slow armies to a crawl. The advance will stall. American forces will become spectators in their own invasion, watching British forces claim the glory, while United States soldiers guard supply lines and mountain passes. General Hobart Gay, Patton's chief of staff, stands nearby. He's seen that look before. The tight jaw, the narrowed eyes, the absolute stillness before the storm. What happens next will be talked about for decades. General George Smith Patton explodes. According to Gay's later accounts, the profanity that erupts from Old Blood and Guts would make a sailor blush. Patton paces the tent like a caged tiger. His boots hammer the ground with each step. His voice rises with each declaration. Montgomery wants my road. He's trying to sideline the Americans. He wants all the glory for himself! Patton slams his fist on the map table. The entire strategy of Sicily lies spread before him in military precision. Blue arrows showing British advances, red arrows showing United States movements, and Highway 124 cutting through the center like a lifeline. General Jeffrey Keyes, commanding 2nd Corps, witnesses the eruption. Years later, he'll recall Patton's exact words. Monty thinks Americans can't fight. He treats us like amateurs, like we're here to carry his ammunition and guard his flanks. But it's what George Smith Patton says next that changes everything. Gay records it in his diary that same day. Patton stops pacing. He stares at the map. His voice drops to a growl that somehow carries more menace than his shouting. Montgomery wants to get to Messina, so do I. We'll see who gets there first. The decision crystallizes in that moment. Old Blood and Guts will not surrender the road. He will not accept a supporting role. He will not watch British forces claim American objectives. Instead, he'll find a way around this order. He'll beat Montgomery to Messina, whatever it takes. Keyes asks the obvious question. How, sir? Alexander's order gives Montgomery priority on Highway 124. General Harold Alexander commands all Allied ground forces in Sicily under Eisenhower, a British general, Montgomery's countryman. The order comes from Alexander's headquarters. It's phrased as a request, but everyone understands it's really a command backed by Montgomery's influence with Allied high command. George Smith Patton studies the map. His finger traces possible routes. His mind works through logistics, terrain, enemy positions. The genius that earned him the nickname Old Blood and Guts isn't just about courage. It's about seeing possibilities where others see obstacles. I'll request permission to change our objectives, Patton announces. We'll drive north to Palermo, then swing east along the northern coast toward Messina. Montgomery can have Highway 124. I'll take a different route, and I'll still beat him there. His staff exchanges glances. Drive across Sicily to Palermo, then race east along the northern coast? The distances are enormous. The terrain is brutal. The enemy still fights. Military experts would call this plan ambitious. Others would call it reckless. Old Blood and Guts calls it necessary. Patton's diary entry from July 13, 1943, preserved in his personal papers, records his thoughts. Alexander has given Monty everything he wants. The road to Messina is his. We are to guard his flank. To hell with that. The challenge is set. Not just a military objective now, a personal mission. A test of United States fighting spirit against British arrogance. A race that will prove which nation produces the finest combat soldiers. But could Old Blood and Guts really pull it off? Could the United States 7th Army cross Sicily, capture a major city, then race east to Messina before Montgomery's forces fighting up the coast? The next 72 hours would tell. July 15, 1943. General George Smith Patton flies to Alexander's headquarters in Tunisia. He's going over Alexander's head isn't an option. Eisenhower commands the theater, but Alexander commands ground forces in Sicily. Patton needs Alexander's approval to change the 7th Army's objectives. The meeting room feels thick with British skepticism. Alexander sits behind his desk, the very picture of British military aristocracy. Neat uniform, clipped accent, measured words. Everything Patton is not. Old Blood and Guts makes his pitch. The United States 7th Army should be given an independent objective, not supporting Montgomery, not guarding flanks, an equal role. Drive north to Palermo, capture western Sicily's largest city, then swing east toward Messina along the northern, coastal road. Alexander hesitates. The original plan called for methodical, careful advances. What Patton proposes sounds like a wild cavalry charge across enemy territory, risky, aggressive, very American. How quickly could you take Palermo? Alexander asks. George Smith Patton doesn't blink. 5 days after you give the order. 5 days to cross most of Sicily, to capture a defended city. Military professionals would need weeks to plan such an operation. Patton promises 5 days. Alexander studies the American general. Patton stands ramrod straight, pearl-handled pistols gleaming on his hips, jaw set with absolute confidence. The man radiates aggressive determination. Alexander has seen British generals who talk boldly and deliver timidly. Something about Old Blood and Guts suggests he'll deliver exactly what he promises. On July 17, 1943, Alexander issues new orders. The United States 7th Army is authorized to advance on Palermo. Patton returns to Sicily energized. He gathers his commanders, Bradley commanding 2nd Corps, Truscott commanding 3rd Division, Eddy commanding 9th Division. His message crackles with intensity. Gentlemen, we're going to Palermo, and then we're going to Messina, and we're going to get there before Montgomery does. General Omar Bradley, Old Blood and Guts deputy, later writes in his memoir that Patton became obsessed with the race. He talked constantly about beating Monty. It consumed him. But obsession focused properly becomes excellence. And General George Smith Patton focuses his obsession like a laser beam on one objective: prove the United States Army can outfight outmarch, and outthink any force in the world. The advance begins July 18th. United States forces drive north through central Sicily. Patton personally visits forward units daily. He appears in his jeep, standing tall, pearl-handled pistols visible, voice booming encouragement and demands for speed. Keep moving, don't stop. We're racing the British to Messina, and by God, we're going to win. This is why they called him Old Blood and Guts. Not because he was reckless with soldiers' lives. The nickname came from his own willingness to bleed, to charge forward, to lead from the front while other generals commanded from safe headquarters. Patton leads by example. His soldiers see him under fire. They see him sharing their dangers. They follow him because Old Blood and Guts never asks them to go anywhere. He won't go first. The terrain fights them. Mountain roads wind through brutal hills. Summer heat bakes men and machines. Enemy resistance appears in pockets. German rearguards fighting delaying actions while their main forces withdraw toward Messina. But the United States 7th Army moves like a machine possessed. Patton drives them mercilessly. Not cruelly, mercilessly. There's a difference. He demands maximum effort because he knows what's at stake, not just capturing cities. Proving American worth. Showing the world, showing the British, that the United States produces the finest fighting men in history. July 22nd, 1943, 5 days after receiving authorization. Exactly as promised. The United States 7th Army enters Palermo. General George Smith Patton rides into the city in his jeep, standing upright, pearl-handled pistols gleaming in the sun. Sicilians line the streets. American soldiers march through in formation. Tanks rumble over ancient stones. The United States flag rises over Palermo's Capitol building. Old Blood and Guts has delivered on his promise. 5 days, across Sicily, city captured. Meanwhile, Montgomery's 8th Army remains stuck around Catania on the east coast. Even with Highway 124, the road he demanded from Patton, Montgomery can't break through German defenses. His advance crawls forward at agonizing pace. Patton's diary entry from July 22nd, 1943. We took Palermo in 5 days, exactly as I promised Alexander. Now we turn east. Messina waits. So does Montgomery. We'll see who gets there first. The race enters its critical phase. Patton immediately turns his army east. No pause to celebrate Palermo's capture. No rest. The coastal road beckons. 100 miles of shoreline between Palermo and Messina. Mountains on one side. Mediterranean Sea on the other. Enemy forces defending every good position. General Lucian Truscott commands 3rd Infantry Division, leading Patton's advance along the coast. Years later, Truscott writes in his memoir that Patton told him repeatedly, "We have to beat the British to Messina. Nothing else matters." Old Blood and Guts authorizes bold tactics, amphibious end runs around German positions, naval gunfire support from destroyers offshore, night advances when the enemy expects rest, continuous pressure, no pause, no mercy. The advance becomes a blur of combat and movement. United States soldiers fight through July's end into August. The Germans defend skillfully. Erwin Rommel himself has praised George Smith Patton as Germany's most dangerous opponent. German commanders respect Old Blood and Guts because he thinks like they do. Aggressive, mobile, decisive. But respect doesn't mean surrender. German forces make the United States pay for every mile. Blown bridges, mined roads, snipers in the hills, machine gun nests covering approaches. Every defensive position must be overcome through courage and casualties. Patton drives forward relentlessly. He visits units under fire. His famous profane speeches inspire soldiers to superhuman efforts. When a bridge is blown, Old Blood and Guts orders engineers forward and stands watching as enemy shells fall nearby, refusing to take cover until the work is done. "How can I ask my men to be brave if they never see me in danger?" he explains to an aide who begs him to seek cover. This is the essence of the man they called Old Blood and Guts, leading from the front, sharing the danger, proving by personal example that courage matters more than safety. August 3rd, 1943. Patton's diary records, "We are closing on Messina, so is Montgomery, but we will get there first." Both armies now race toward the same objective from different directions. Montgomery approaching from the south, Patton approaching from the west. The finish line waits barely 50 miles ahead for both forces. The tension becomes unbearable. Every hour matters, every mile counts. Patton pushes his divisions beyond normal limits. Men march through exhaustion. Trucks roll through darkness. Artillery fires day and night. The United States 7th Army becomes a relentless machine grinding toward victory. German forces begin their evacuation across the Strait of Messina to mainland Italy. They've lost Sicily. Now they fight delaying actions to save their army. American forces smash. Through each defensive position, old blood and guts won't allow delays, won't accept excuses. Messina waits. Montgomery approaches. Nothing else matters. August 17, 1943. Dawn breaks over Sicily's northeastern coast. Messina lies ahead. The finish line of the greatest race in World War II. General George Smith Patton wakes before sunrise. Today decides everything. Today determines whether the United States Army proves its worth or watches British forces claim the glory. Today, old blood and guts either validates his defiance of Montgomery's demand or becomes a footnote to British achievement. Patton dresses carefully. Full uniform, shined boots, pearl-handled pistols positioned perfectly. He looks every inch the warrior general, because today he rides into history. Forward reconnaissance reports reach headquarters. The road to Messina stands open. German forces completed their evacuation during the night. The city waits, empty of major enemy forces. Ready for occupation? But where are Montgomery's forces? How close is the British 8th Army? The question dominates every conversation in Patton's headquarters. No one knows exactly. Radio intercepts suggest British forces remain miles away. But suggest isn't certainty. Old blood and guts won't relax until American boots march through Messina's streets. "Get me forward," Patton orders. "Now!" He climbs into his jeep. Driver and aide accompany him. No large escort, no massive convoy. Just old blood and guts racing toward destiny in a single vehicle. Behind him, the United States 3rd Infantry Division advances in full strength. But Patton won't wait. He must see Messina with his own eyes, must enter the city first, must claim victory personally. The coastal road unwinds before them. Morning sun glints off the Mediterranean. Ahead, Messina's buildings rise against the sky. So close now. It's so tantalizingly close. They pass American soldiers moving forward. Infantry marching, tanks rolling, artillery pieces towed by trucks. The United States 7th Army closing on its objective. Men wave as they recognize the commanding general's jeep. Patton stands upright, returning salutes, grinning fiercely. "Faster," he tells his driver. The jeep accelerates. Wind whips past. The pearl-handled pistols catch sunlight. General George Smith Patton rides toward Messina like a cavalry commander charging toward glory. And in many ways, that's exactly what he is. Old blood and guts embodies the aggressive warrior spirit, the attacking mindset, the refusal to accept second place. They enter Messina's outskirts at 7:30 in the morning. Local civilians emerge cautiously. Some cheer, others simply stare. The streets show battle damage, shell holes, rubble, broken windows. But the city stands, and American forces arrive first. Patton's jeep rolls through the main streets, heading toward the city center, toward the plaza where the United States flag will rise, toward the symbolic heart of Sicily's most important northeastern city. They reach the central plaza at 8 o'clock. Patton dismounts, stands in the square, looks around at the ancient buildings, the medieval architecture, the strategic harbor that controls the Strait of Messina. "We're here first," he says quietly, then louder, "We're here first." Elements of the 3rd Infantry Division arrive minutes later. Officers report to General George Smith Patton. The city is secured. Resistance is minimal. Messina belongs to the United States 7th Army. Old blood and guts allows himself a moment of pure satisfaction. He'd promised to beat Montgomery. He'd promised to prove American fighting capability. He'd promised to win the race. Every promise kept, every objective achieved. British forces arrive in Messina that afternoon. several hours after American forces. General Montgomery himself enters the city to find United States troops already established, American flags already flying, George Smith Patton already claiming victory. According to multiple accounts from officers present, the meeting between Patton and Montgomery that day carries enough tension to cut with a knife. Montgomery offers congratulations that sound forced. Patton accepts with a grin that speaks volumes. Nothing said directly insults. Everything implied cuts deep. "We had a good race," Patton tells Montgomery. "Better luck next time." Montgomery's expression suggests he considers this entire competition unnecessary and juvenile, but the results speak for themselves. The United States 7th Army captured Palermo in 5 days as promised, raced east along the coast through enemy resistance, entered Messina hours before British forces, won the race that Old Blood and Guts declared back on July 13th when Montgomery tried to take his road. General Hobart Gay records in his diary that evening, "The general is elated. We beat the British. We showed that them Americans can fight." Patton's own diary entry from August 17th, 1943, captures his feelings perfectly. "We took Messina. We got there before Montgomery. This is a great day for the United States Army." The news spreads like wildfire. United States forces captured Messina first. General George Smith Patton beat Montgomery to Sicily's most important objective. American newspapers trumpet the victory. Soldiers throughout the United States Army feel pride surge through their ranks. Old Blood and Guts proved what many knew, but few had demonstrated. American forces match or exceed any army in the world. General Dwight Eisenhower, Supreme Allied Commander, receives reports with mixed feelings. According to his memoir, Eisenhower writes, "Patton's dash to Messina, while motivated partly by rivalry, demonstrated American fighting ability. But the competition between Patton and Montgomery sometimes worked against military efficiency. The criticism carries weight. Allied forces should have coordinated better. German forces evacuated across the Strait of Messina, largely intact. Better cooperation might have trapped more enemy soldiers. The race for glory possibly allowed thousands of Germans to escape and fight another day." But General George Smith Patton never apologizes for the competition. His diary entries from late August defend his actions vigorously. The United States needed this victory. American forces deserved equal status with British forces. Montgomery's arrogance required correction. The race to Messina accomplished all 3 objectives. British commanders make dismissive comments. Montgomery calls the race unnecessary, claiming it risked lives for personal glory. Other British officers suggest Patton's route was easier, his opposition lighter, his achievement less significant than Montgomery's grinding battle up the East Coast. Old Blood and Guts ignores the British criticism. He knows what matters. American. Soldiers believe in themselves now. The United States Army proved its capability, and every German commander respects George Smith Patton as one of the war's most dangerous opponents. Captured German officers later admit they feared Patton more than any other Allied general. Rommel himself told subordinates to watch for Patton's movements because Old Blood and Guts thought like a panzer commander, aggressive, mobile, striking where unexpected. This represents the highest praise one warrior can give another, the enemy's acknowledgement of excellence. Military historians debate the Sicily campaign's conduct for decades. Some criticize the lack of coordination. Others praise the aggressive American advance. Most agree that General George Smith Patton's race to Messina demonstrated the United States Army's capability to conduct rapid, mobile operations against determined opposition. The strategic impact extends beyond Sicily. Allied commanders planning the invasion of France take note. Patton's methods work. His aggressive tactics produce results. When Operation Overlord launches in 1944, Old Blood and Guts will command the Third Army in the breakout from Normandy. The lessons learned in Sicily, speed, aggression, relentless pressure, will be applied on an even larger scale. But in August 1943, Sicily marks the moment when General George Smith Patton established himself as America's finest combat commander. Not just competent, not merely adequate, the finest, the best. The general every American soldier wants to follow and every German soldier fears to face. What Patton said when Montgomery tried to take his road set all this in motion. His refusal to surrender Highway 124, his determination to find an alternative route, his declaration that the United States would beat Britain to Messina. Every word proved prophetic, every promise kept, every objective achieved. The United States Army gained more than a city. It gained confidence, proof of capability, evidence that American forces could outfight, outmarch, and outthink any opponent. Old blood and guts gave his nation that gift, through sheer force of will and tactical brilliance. Decades later, the race to Messina remains one of World War II's most studied operations. Military academies throughout the United States analyze Patton's Sicily campaign. The lessons taught extend far beyond tactics and logistics. They encompass leadership, determination, competitive spirit, and national pride. General George Smith Patton understood something fundamental. Wars are won by soldiers who believe they're the best. Armies that think they're superior to their enemies fight harder, move faster, take greater risks. Old blood and guts gave the United States Army that belief. He proved through action that American forces deserved equal status with any military in history. The incident with Highway 124 crystallizes everything Patton represented. Montgomery tried to relegate American forces to a supporting role, tried to take the United States road and claim British superiority. Old blood and guts refused. He found another route, turned the campaign into a competition, and won decisively. This single sequence of events, reading Montgomery's demand, refusing to comply, racing to Messina, arriving first, captures the essence of the man they called Old Blood and Guts. Aggressive, competitive, brilliant, unstoppable, everything a combat commander should be. Historians recognize Sicily as the turning point when the United States Army transitioned from capable force to world-class military. The invasion of North Africa taught lessons. The Sicily campaign applied those lessons with devastating effectiveness, and General George Smith Patton led the way. Pearl-handled pistols gleaming, profane speeches inspiring, tactical genius evident in every decision. What he said when Montgomery tried to take his road matters because it revealed his character. He said the British wouldn't sideline Americans. He said the United States would prove its fighting capability. He said he'd beat Montgomery to Messina. Every statement proved accurate, every prediction fulfilled, every promise kept. This is why George Smith Patton became a legend, not just because he won battles, because he won battles that needed winning to prove points that needed proving. Sicily wasn't just about capturing an island. It was about establishing the United States Army as an equal to the British forces. Old blood and guts understood this. He made it his personal mission, and he succeeded brilliantly. The legacy extends through generations. Modern United States military leaders study Patton's methods. His aggressive tactics influence doctrine. His leadership style inspires officers. His competitive spirit reminds every American soldier that excellence matters, that second place isn't acceptable, that the United States military must always strive to be the absolute best. And it all traces back to July 13th, 1943, the day Montgomery tried to take Patton's road, the day Old Blood and Guts said no, the day the race to Messina began, the day General George Smith Patton proved that the United States Army bows to no one. This is why they called him Old Blood and Guts. This is why his name resonates through history. This is why Sicily matters. One man, one decision, one race, unlimited impact. The legend of General George Smith Patton lives on because he gave the United States Army something priceless: absolute confidence in American military superiority. He took that confidence to France, to Germany, to the heart of the Third Reich. He led the Third Army on a rampage through Europe that made German commanders tremble. And it all started in Sicily when Montgomery tried to take his road, and Old Blood and Guts decided to race to Messina instead. If this story of Old Blood and Guts' impossible race to Messina moved you, hit subscribe. We're bringing you more untold moments from General George Smith Patton, history's greatest combat commander. The pearl-handled pistols, the profane speeches, the tactical brilliance, the unstoppable will. Every story proves why they called him Old Blood and Guts. Every story shows why the United States Army has never produced a finer combat general. Subscribe now. The legend continues.